Welcome to another episode of the Unlocked Podcast, where we're sharing our experiences in growing and adjusting and modifying and learning how to build a locksmith and security company. I was very distracted there. Tony just immediately, as we started recording, decided to adjust his camera per the usual. But welcome, everybody. How you guys doing? It's been a few weeks.
It's a couple of the best weeks of my life.
Oh, well. That's sad.
That's rude.
This one's coming in hot, by the way. Just if you're listening to this on Thursday when this is released, it's about, 4 hours. We were recording this about 4 hours before it's releasing.
Requested by our editor. He really appreciates when we do it last minute. Because there's nothing he'd rather do tonight than edit a podcast.
Something tells me this could be a little bit unedited, so people might get this a little bit unfiltered.
Wow. I want to bring the color of my shirt to attention. Wearing this black shirt with the black microphone, I look professional.
It does blend in very well.
That is one opinion.
Top notch.
A big shout out to our editor, Aaron Beaver, creator of many things and a problem solver of the ones that he helps to create. Does a fantastic job, and so we appreciate. That's
pretty accurate.
That's the most chattying compliment I've ever heard.
That's it's on his business card. Yeah. So anyways,
problem maker, problem solver.
Which, by the way, guys, I've got to show you a video of something that he's been working on that is pretty special. So thank you guys for being here today. Introduction. Sorry. We're rusty.
Oh, Chad.
Yeah.
Come on.
My name is Chad Lingeveld from Loc-Doc Security in Charlotte, North Carolina, and the guy in the black shirt with the black microphone.
If you're listening on a podcast, that doesn't help much. Oh. But for on YouTube, hi, it's me. I'm Lars Johnson. I am from Calgary, Alberta. Calgary Lock Safe is our parent brand. Mm-hmm. And the other goofy-looking guy over there.
I am Tony Hokinson from Assured Security in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
So combined, we are
on the Unlocked Podcast.
Yes.
It was... before we started recording, Lars said that his microphone sounded funny, and I said yes, it sounded Canadian. I thought that was hilarious, and it was. I wanted to get that one back in.
Pause for the cricket sound. Beeves, if you could add the cricket sound.
Which, by the way, did you guys see the comment that we had on our YouTube video where you were talking about Australians,
dangos, and kangaroos? Yeah.
I was focused on the compliment that Lars got on his hair. It was I
don't know if it was a genuine.
Who's to say?
People come to watch this just to check this all out.
A couple of references. So we had some pretty good emails here recently and some comments on some of our episodes. So appreciate those for coming in. But Uncle Glenn, as always, bringing some profound knowledge. And so I just wanted to reference back to a few episodes. I'm assuming, like we can go off of the assumption that every single person that is listening has listened diligently to every episode that we've ever released.
Yeah.
But on the potential that maybe this is your first one that you're joining us on, if you jump back a few episodes, episode number 46, Breaking the $3 million Ceiling, and episode number 45, The Uncomfortable Truths of Entrepreneurship. Probably some of the more profound, I guess, episodes that we've had with real practical applications. Like, not to devalue any of the other ones, but those were some very, I think, some must listens. If you miss those, might be one to go back on.
Yeah, especially my parts. I mean, you guys, but I mean, people should probably fast forward just to get some knowledge from the fountain here. I think that's what you're getting at, Chet.
Yeah, that was one of the things. Okay,
good. Thanks.
Check that out. You can find all of those episodes on our website, unlockedpodcast.com, and under the menu section, you can click podcast. It'll show you all the episodes there. So you can do that, and then obviously on any of the podcast platforms. So Tony he had contacted me a couple of weeks ago, and he was like, Chad, I really, really, really wish we could record an episode on KPIs, because I feel like that this was an episode that we probably glossed over early on, and we should really do another deep dive and unpack into this. So I said, you know what, Tony, it's a great idea. This is a great topic. We should really work with this.
What really gets under my skin, Chad, is that every person we talk to is like, oh, you guys are so hard on Tony. Little do they know, behind the scenes, just the saltiest little guy you've ever met. Just like, this is stupid. I hate you. You guys are dumb and blah, blah. So just anyone that is listening, that's the real Tony. Just be warned.
If you've ever felt sorry for Tony, just realize there are a lot of text messages that will never see the light of day.
Salty.
Yeah. So with that said, our very first episode that we ever released was on KPIs. And it was actually one of the top listened to episodes, as a matter of fact. I was thinking about it. This has been almost a year.
Early.
We did peak early. Well, it's kind of this thing, right? So it's the first episode, so it'll always continue to be top viewed because people, that's when they're going to jump to first.
Because people listen to the first 10 seconds of the first. Anyway, you're getting somewhere here.
So with the KPIs, I felt like that original episode, we talked about a lot of different things, and we probably veered off into a lot of different sub conversations. And we really focused on what KPIs are and how we try to use them. The way I wanted to approach today is I wanted you guys to bring the top 5 or 5. It doesn't have to be top 5 because that would be obnoxious. 5 KPIs that you actually use in your business to drive growth. And so we'll kind of talk about what it is, and then talk about how you used it and why it became imperative or important to you. And we'll just kind of do round robin where we'll kick off one and then move to the next. That is the verbal version of our agenda for today. So Tony is going to take the first one. And so I'm going to give him a few seconds to get prepared and ready to go.
Oh boy.
But we'll jump there, and then we'll round robin through that, because the point or the hope for this would be that if anybody's listening, they may get a handful, 2 or 3 KPIs that maybe they haven't thought about or aren't particularly using now, that might give them some insights to help grow their business. Now, a couple of factors on this. I was talking to someone earlier today around our business, and I think the big thing that I've learned probably over the last 5 years is dialing in the KPIs that are important to our business at that particular time, and how it helps us to keep our eyes on the road. I heard a guy months ago, maybe a year or so ago, give this presentation talking about the difference between looking through the windshield or the rearview mirror. And it's really difficult to drive looking in the rearview mirror. So for my perspective on it, KPIs help us to look through the windshield and know if we are still on the road and if things are looking in a positive direction. So that is the concept for the episode today. And the hope is that you'll be able to walk away with some practical applications and KPIs that will be beneficial to you. Does that work for everybody?
Makes sense.
Well, we're pretty committed now anyway, so I think we're going with it.
Yep. All right, Tony, you're up first. Give us a KPI.
Wisdom.
So nothing
Tony.
earth shattering here. I'm looking at
Oh,
KPIs.
hold on a second. I have to interrupt you real quick. One of the caveats I gave was it couldn't be top line revenue or gross margin.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
I did listen to you. Yes.
Salty.
So I'm focusing on all company metrics. We have kind of a scorecard system built out where we have our all company scorecard. And then each individual team has scorecards that dive deeper into specific metrics related to their team. But from a company standpoint, very basic metric, but something that we value as important is just total service tickets created per week. We know exactly what our average needs to be. And we want to it's a good predictor of volume and busyness coming up. So we look at what that average is, and we just measure work orders created every week. It is a metric that is reported on in multiple different meetings at a senior leadership level, and just gives us a good idea of a busyness level from a service standpoint. And for our sake, service makes up about 50% of our business, maybe a little bit more. So it is a good barometer of work that is currently happening. So
I have one of those that are similar service tickets. So like work orders. Now,
work orders. Basically how we define service as any form of reactionary business. So any sort of work that we are going out, field work that we are doing that does not require a quote. Yeah. So repairs, it is just your basically break fix repairs. Yes. So basically work orders created, work orders created.
And this is one of the things I wanted to, this is great. Thank you, Tony. Fantastic. Could you share what your average is that you're looking for? Cause I think that there's probably a comparison to what, like all of our companies are very similar in size of revenue annually, but there's a difference between service ticket size.
Yeah. So I actually looked into this a little bit about a month ago. Last 4 years, on average, every week we average 100 service tickets per week. And that variance is very little from month to month, year to year, sadly. We have not grown our service volume over the last 4 years. All of our service increases have come from rate increases. So 100 tickets entered per week. Actually, that's not right.
That's 5,200 a year. That's about half.
Yeah. So service tickets created is about 100.
And so if you're watching that, if 1 week you had 80 and 1 week you had 60, you would know that you were having an issue? Or is that kind of the reason that you watch it?
Yes. So we look at it. I mean, 1 week, we're not too concerned if we see back-to-back weeks. We know that it's a little bit more than noise. Typically 2 or 3 weeks when we start seeing that trend, we're like, okay, what's causing this? What's going on? It's also just a good signal of, hey, we're going to be a little light on work. Maybe we schedule more projects that week. Just gives us a little bit of a barometer of what's to come. Because, so we break it down from a residential standpoint, a commercial standpoint, everything. But from a top line level, we look at just tickets created.
Lars, your average tickets created per week?
We do about 14,000 a year.
Okay.
So divided by 52, whatever that number is.
A couple hundred.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
265 or something like that.
Yeah. I think it's about 60 a day. We look at daily. It's between 60 and 70 a day, I think is about right. Let me check.
Yep. And then for us, I think we're at about 140 is what we average a week. Now, the only difference on that, Tony, I measure all site visit creation. So that's going to include project approvals as well as service.
I actually misspoke on I'm just looking at our senior leadership scorecard, and it's we average 150 a week.
Oh,
total, everything.
Cool. All makes like more sense.
Commercial, residential, projects, whatever.
Perfect. Okay. So a lot of work orders processing there. Good information there. All right, Lars, what's your KPI? One of your first KPIs that you watch?
Well, I will stick with service because we are the service dominant of the three of us. Chad, your team's obviously more project-based. Tony, you're kind of in the middle and transitioning towards more project-based, and we are more service-based. So we are reactionary and go and fix things lots. So one of the things I look at fairly consistently is our conversion rate of how many emails and how many phone calls we receive incoming over a period of time, weekly, daily, whatever. And then how many service tickets we make out of those, because it gives us an indication of how busy we are, what our demand is, kind of the seasonal and cyclical nature. We do have a few months that are a little slower than others, but that, I'm able to, just by looking at how many times the phone rings, gives me a pretty good idea of what our revenue is going to be for the month.
So phone and email inbound and then the percentage of that gets converted into an actual work order.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's similar to what Tony does in the amount of work orders. But what I found was I tweaked it a bit, because where we obviously go, the harder one is email, because we do have a shared email inbox. But for phone, we have 5 people, I think, that are answering the phone. So I can see by extension. So basically I can see who has picked up the phone and how many service tickets they have created from those phone calls. So if we have one person that has, created 70% of their phone calls and converted that into business, and somebody's only doing 10%, we know there's a challenge there, and we start looking at those calls specifically and figuring out what's going on. So
yes. I think that's an interesting measurement. I was trying to think, like, if I was a company that maybe didn't have that amount of data, most modern voice over IP phone systems, most phone systems as a whole, they're going to give you at least the total number of inbound calls.
Yep.
And then you would just have to kind of do your own measurable on number of site visits created or work orders created, or whatever you call them.
Yeah.
And then you could kind of see that ratio or percentage of inbound calls.
Ours is just an export. It's an export, and we just add the number into an Excel sheet, and it appears. Like, this is not anything fancy. This is just a rudimentary, how busy are we, and how efficient are we? Because, I mean, one of my biggest peeves is, now that technology is, so fancy and everyone has a camera in their hand at all times, is it's become a habit, because we're in such a, visually dominant industry. Mm-hmm. It's, can you send me a picture?
Yeah.
And then, we send the customer away and say, can you send me a picture? And, it's like pushing away the iron while, like the iron's hot. Like, while you're on the phone with me, can you send me a picture, or can you face it? But I don't want to see, and that we have seen that some people make less service tickets because they were pushing back and saying, can you send photos? And people usually do.
Yeah.
But not always. So from that,
let me go give you some homework, and then you can come back, and maybe then I'll help do something for you. Yeah.
And so instead, it was like an 8% difference. I think it was 8, maybe 10% difference from one person specifically started listening to their calls and was like, oh, this is pretty common that, if you can send us that, I can tell you how much or what, or all that stuff. So it gave me some really valuable feedback, and I can just see how that, kind of this metric leads into that. And it's really that front line, gives me a really good indication of our front line. So that's one of the metrics I look at all the time.
Yes. So one of the challenges that I've seen in our organization on the phone calls is that our call volume has dropped drastically over the past 3 years or so. Mm-hmm. Our site visit creation has gone up. So it's, we've got more email, more online service requests, all that.
Which you would expect.
Yeah. So the demand there, I guess the way that we're communicating with our customers has changed quite a bit. So, but either way, like it's a measurable to kind of see where that's coming in. Very cool.
Yeah, it's not the be all end all, but it is one of them, because we still get 160 phone calls in a day.
Well, and at the end of the day, you're still tracking inbound traffic. You're using that as a measurement of like how busy are we. It's not the end all be all, but it is an indicator similar to service tickets created. You're basically just getting a measure of volume, and it's going to stay roughly constant, at least in a small time period. To Chad's point, over 2-3 years, you may start to see those pivot, but still an indicator.
So I was gonna use this one as number 2, but I'm gonna bump it to number 1 since we're on the topic.
Ooh.
So one of them is work orders by week. So very similar, and the reason for it on our side is there was something that we never really measured previous to COVID. And when we went into the COVID downturn and everything kind of slowed down, we were watching the wrong metric to see if we were staying busy. And we used to watch this kind of work funnel, just the total amount of work that we had approved. And so we went into it with a lot of work on the backlog, but we were not watching how it was coming in. And so we got caught pretty bad, 6, 8, 9 months in, because our demand had dropped off drastically, and we weren't anticipating it or watching it, because we still felt busy because we were doing a lot of projects. We were doing a lot of work. Everybody was doing something, but we weren't measuring that demand. And so we had to shift. And on the outturn of that COVID pandemic timeframe, we instituted this measurable, and it is one that we probably live by the most, because it does completely tell us if our demand is at the level that we need it to be to match our output down the line. And so it is one that our team lives and dies by on a weekly basis. We know the exact number that we need to be at. If we're below that, to Tony's point, 2 to 3 weeks in repeat, what's changed? What do we need to do? How do we go drum up some business and get some opportunities? Because we know that that's going to hit us in 2 weeks outside of that.
It's interesting. You mentioned that, and this is exactly the same time. It's probably no coincidence. I mean, we sat on a call together 3 hours a day every day during COVID for a year and a half. But that was when we implemented a lot of this too. And I looked at daily service tickets because I wanted to know how much are we being impacted by this pandemic, right? And those were early days, and it's just kind of stuck because it was it was very indicative of how the revenue at the end of the month. And that's really what we're talking about when you're talking about looking through the windshield. You should know what your revenue is going to be at the end of the month.
Yeah.
By the 5th day of the month.
Well, not to bring up the lead lag measure debate that we had back in 2020, but this is one of the things that I think we did find that is a significant lead measure for us. There was a lot of debate that it was a lag measure because it was a site visit that we did or whatever, but it does show us this is the demand that we're having. If demand falls off, what happened? Are our phones working? Did our phone number get hacked? It shows us a lot of information because it moves it from a feel and an intuition to a factual, this is where we're actually at.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right, Tony.
Really sticking with a similar theme here. We closely monitor quotes created by week. And specifically break it down by quotes that have subscription tied to them and quotes that don't have subscription tied to them. So really looking at the two main drivers of our project side of our business, and what kind of requests are we getting from a hardware standpoint, and what kind of requests are we getting from a RMR standpoint.
And why is that important? How does it impact your decision making?
Again, it's just a thing that we are marketing towards. So if we're seeing that RMR quotes entered declining, we know that our marketing efforts aren't working. We need to put more efforts into, it's a better way to say it is RMR is a very strong focus of our company. So we want to make sure that we're getting enough quote requests. We know what our average ticket volume is for RMR quotes and how much RMR we have on them. So we know roughly how many quotes we need to hit our RMR added goals. So
it's like an audit of what your focus or your target market is doing.
Yeah, right. Sure. I mean, not target market per se, but
but that is who you're focused on, right? RMR clients.
Fair. Sure. Okay.
So it's an indication if the product that you are putting out aligns with the target that you're intending.
Yeah.
That's interesting. We monitor quotes as well every week. And look at averages, but what we are quoting or to who we are quoting, what channel. I've never really looked into that before. So that's an interesting one.
Yeah. We basically we have different teams going after different types of projects. So it's just, they're both growth areas. But we like to track what marketing efforts are being effective and what ones aren't.
Have you made any changes to your strategy based on that? Like if you're looking at an RMR target.
I mean, for example, we use it as a discussion tool in our leadership meeting. So there was about a month or so ago, we noticed a decline in RMR quotes. We did a brainstorming session on some things we could do to increase those quotes. So
did it work?
Yeah, when we see a KPI dip, we have discussions around what we need to do to get them back on track.
Do you have any? Chad loves a good tip and trick. So do you have a tip? What was the strategy that came out of that? What did you focus on? Not to throw you on the spot here. Okay.
I can't fully remember, but I think I don't know.
I really like that. I think that's an adjustment that we can make. So we do track the RMR approvals every week. I like the customer categories. Where we're selling into. What verticals are we selling
Who's
into?
attracted to you?
Yeah.
That's an interesting concept.
That's really smart, Tony.
Well, we haven't tracked it on the customer verticals. I'll get to give Lars credit for that one, but we are tracking it based on the products.
Sorry, that was a terrible idea. Let me back that one up. That was terrible.
we are tracking it based on the products they are buying from us. So it's basically like RMR quotes versus non-RMR quotes. All of our RMR is tied to electronic solutions. So it's essentially a way to measure
product
our
categories.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. Dumb idea, Tony. Mute yourself. you're in the penalty box for. But actually, I wrote down
great.
by channel and target market. That's it's a good concept, and I mean, this is where I'll go back to a comment. Lots of people will be sitting here and saying, well, we just don't have the technology for that. Like, how do you actually track that? And I can't say this enough. When we started this, and this will segue into my next one, is it was just a whiteboard in the sales office where they would just go put a mark on it. That's all it takes.
There are very few things that you say that I agree with, but that is one that is absolutely, I think, we struggle with that in our organization, where people will be like, well, I will do brainstorming on what we want to track, and they will get stuck on, well, we can't track that. And it's like, no, don't worry about that. If you could pick 5 things that you think would be instrumental, what are they? Let's later figure out how to track the ones that we want to actually track. Where we get too caught up in, well, how are we going to do this in the system? How are we going to do that? Let's first decide what's important, and then we figure out how we get there. And like you said, it can be manual.
Just get started. Just do it.
So
that's a good slogan, actually.
I used that actually. We were trying to figure out how many of shop phone calls we get and answered, and you could argue that can be tracked in our phone system. I literally said, take out a spreadsheet every time you transfer a shop phone call, write it down for a week. Let's see what the percentage looks like. You can make it manual. Sometimes that's even better because then people are more aware of it. So absolutely wonderful tip and trick there, Lars.
That's what this podcast is about. Tips and tricks. Brought to you by Chad Lingefeld.
Just focused on bringing value to listeners every day.
Okay, so I think this would be an interesting future episode, and I'm trying to figure out where I can notate this so that we remember it. Because I have
a notebook and a pen. So
have at it, man. Okay, so you just said something that we've struggled with forever, and there's a couple of methodologies I think that we've tried to unlock that have helped with it, but it's effectively how do that was unintentional. How do you get your team from a brainstorming perspective to start with a fresh, like a blank slate? We, as organizations, we get stuck in trying to solve problems with our limiting factors at hand, and then we oftentimes will solve the problem ineffectively because we have our own limiting factor. How do you wipe that slate clean? I think that would be a good topic, because we've done a couple of different exercises that have been beneficial. But anyways, you just reminded me of that when Tony, you said that. It's a frustrating thing because people just say these are the things
you have
that
your
we
company
know to be
bias.
True. Yep. Correct. Yeah. How do you get out of your company
bias? Yes. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
So it's
number
next
2,
one,
LJ. Yeah.
Because Tony just brought up the point of, basically rudimentary stats keeping, right? The most ridiculous stat that we keep, we wanted to know. So some of the feedback we would get, we don't spend enough time on professional development. We don't, not enough training, which one of my biggest peeves is we say, we don't get enough information or we don't do enough training. And it's like, okay, well, let's just increase our training. What the heck does that even mean? Our training, right? So I wanted to, first of all, focus on the language. We don't get enough training on pinning Medico cylinders. We don't get enough training on analyzing hardware solutions. What are we specifically doing? But I thought, that's going to be pretty challenging. But I was curious how much training, technical training in the field, do our people get over a period of time? Because I also wanted to have something to respond when I heard that. Either you are correct, we didn't do enough, or there was a point. Because this also ties into the HR piece where, people say, well, they leave the company and say, well, they didn't train us well enough or whatever, right? Which is very common with everyone. So I was like, well, I don't believe that to be true, but I could be wrong. So in our office, we literally have all the technicians on a laminated piece of paper with a calendar. And then every time we send somebody out with another person, we do like a ride along or like a training exercise. We write it down, how many hours they were out together. because at the end of the month, we look and see how much time did our company spend on professional development in the field, technically training others. And if that number is 0, yeah, we have failed. If that number is, 120, that's probably closer. But our goal was, we just set up that we wanted, 100 hours of professional development for each of our technical guys. And we thought, well, how do we keep track of that? It's literally a dry erase board in the office with a marker. Yep. And that's all it takes. And that's good enough. And it just gave me a good indication of where we were at and how focused we were on, one of our core values. So
I like that one. We do a similar process. I like the manual process of that. We track it with just our time software. So if you're out with a technician training, you're not clocked into the job, you're clocked into training. We report on it weekly. We look at professional development training, technician training, and then training on processes. We realized that is something that we do a really good job of creating processes and then not educating people. So our training manager,
print it off, you stick it on the wall and say, there's the process. And we never look at it again.
So we track a development training, a process training, and a total training.
Mm-hmm. So
you say report on it. Where does it get reported to?
In our senior leadership scorecard.
Oh, okay.
And then on the field team, they have a metric as well, because that's 50% of our company, and we're focused on field training as well. So it's reported on at the field level and then at the senior leadership level.
Ours is literally a 6 foot by 4 foot laminated piece of paper right in the middle of the kind of the hive of our company. So it is front and center.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot.
Sure everyone sees it. As far as the manual reporting, I've talked about this 100 times, but I'm going to need some help with the name, because I have a man crush on the guy and I don't remember what his name is. Who runs the Yale Carbon Factory?
Dave DeLacy.
So
man crush on him, you don't know his name.
Well, yeah,
it's sad.
He's not one for details.
Fair.
So Dave DeLacy, who is in charge of a manufacturing facility in Connecticut or New Haven. So we went down there, and
Berlin.
What's that?
It's Berlin. In Berlin, yeah.
Again, details.
Yes,
it's in Connecticut. It's in the greater Connecticut area.
The GCA, yes.
Right on the border of Canada.
We went there, and and I saw there was, there's autonomous robots moving around, and there's crane, pinning machines, and there's a bunch of automation and all these things
that flew around, and
not quite, but I mean, everything was on a big TV, and it showed green and red and this and that and and all of that, all that kind of stuff happening. And then each department head, there was basically a sandwich board with a big, big white piece of paper on it. Sandwich board? No, doesn't matter.
Board.
Or it's a huge
corkboard.
Sure, a huge piece of paper is all that matters.
Oh, okay.
And in marker had, I think the names of the people that were on it. And I thought, oh, isn't that funny? Because we're at this $1 billion company, multi-million dollar, hundreds of $1 million factory, all this technology everywhere. And yet these guys are walking over and using a marker to draw on this piece of paper, their inputs or their time or whatever it was they were measuring. And so I asked him, I was like, what, this is a guy that runs a very, very tight ship. And I said, this to me just looks ridiculous. So why do you do this? And he said, the manual process and the manual, the way we keep track of this manually just triggers something different and means more to you when you have to do it. If it's hidden or if it's on a board or it's something, it's just not as impactful at a personal level as the intentionality of walking over and having to write that down. And I thought, I believe there's something to it. And so that was kind of where I got this idea of, let's just put it on a piece of paper, put it right there. We have to manually do it, but it's in an intentional act, which is going to resonate more and stick. It's going to be stickier, I guess. So,
no, it's a fact. We copied a similar process there with our monthly reporting for our teams. They all have a big board in our conference room where they go in and write down their targets and their actuals, and then they chart it out on the board. And it's an intentional activity, but it also is, I guess it's a big thing. It's intentional versus a digital report can be very passive and ignored. And when you have to physically go write it, it means a little more. I just also realized Tony says processes. You say processes. He says, Lars says process.
Yeah, it's Canadian.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. Okay. So Lars.
An easel. That's a sandwich board on stilts. It's an easel.
Oh,
whatever.
okay.
Same thing.
Deckle. Okay, here's one that we use. Actually, we review this every 2 weeks. Our cost of goods to gross margin balance. We want, obviously, our cost of goods to be less than our gross margin.
Now, do you do that as a percentage? Or you
no, as a dollar value.
So dollar to dollar. You want
dollar
to sell for more dollars than you're buying it for. By at least double, it sounds like.
Right. So the ratio is like, I was looking at it earlier because it's a two bar graphs that sit on top of each other. We want the gross margin to be higher than the cost of goods.
And you define gross margin as what you are selling hardware for?
Yeah,
if you buy it for $2, you sell it for $1. Gross margin is $1.
Yes.
Isn't your gross margin though include labor?
Not on materials.
Okay, so can you clarify that, please?
Cost of goods, meaning how much we pay for a widget,
okay,
and then we sell the widget.
So you're comparing your material sales to your material costs.
We're material sales minus the cost, so that we're making more than what we paid for it. Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yes. And so we're tracking that directly on all sold materials because of the nature of our business with projects, discount, and so forth. But now, one of the reasons that I brought this one up, because this was a game changer for us. We weren't paying attention to that until a couple of years ago because we just assumed every piece of hardware that we bought, we sold it for more than what we paid for it, or enough to make profit on it. That was a misnomer. And we also assumed that we sold every piece of hardware that we bought. Also a fact that is not always the case.
Until you noticed you didn't have any money in your bank account and you thought, where did it all go? And then you look at the 10,000 widgets.
Yes.
We got a lot of widgets.
We got a lot of widgets, but we haven't sold them.
Oh, we broke.
So we, as a factor of that, our purchasing and accounting team tracks every invoice and every product that we purchase, and they apply it back to a line item. So it either goes into inventory or it is sold as a product. And so we're watching that as a measurable because we don't want to get off balance by spending too much on product that we're not actually selling and giving too much aggressive discounts to products on projects. It has significantly increased the profitability of our company because it is a measurable that we report on and that we track when we have but we have had situations over the couple of years that we've been monitoring it that our gross margin has been less than the cost of goods sold. And so we go back in and go, oh, hold on a second. What happened? Are we waiting on returns? Did we over purchase? Whatever the case may be. And we understand what happened to cause us to do that so that we can prevent it from happening on repeat.
Yep. That's a huge one because it impacts cash flow, impacts profitability. I know this is something the three of us, we've talked about lots over the last couple of years. And it's anyone in our industry will have that same challenge because we'll sell it for more than we bought it for, but not always more than we would replace it for. If we had to buy it again today, it could be double the cost.
Well, it takes into consideration like misorders or things that become accidental inventory, which is the worst type of inventory to have. So, we're trying to keep all that into account and that we're balancing out above that because I think it's easy to look at profitability on sold jobs and we all say, yay, we won, congratulations, high five. But then if nobody's tracking the waste or the burn, the loss that you have because you ordered wrong or ordered too much or you can't ship it back or whatever, special order.
Isn't there a business model right there? If you're in distribution and you're listening to this, every locksmith company in the world has a bunch of this crap that you could probably go in and offer 10 cents on the dollar and we would absolutely sell it back to you.
Oh,
maybe like 60 cents, but yeah, I've got a lot of it that I would sell back to you.
Start at 80. That'd be nice.
Start with Chad, 60. Come to me. I'll give it to you for a nickel. Oh. Just get it the heck out of my...
I'll give it to you for a Canadian nickel, which will be like American penny, and then I'll
send you both a nickel if you can tell me what animal is on our nickel.
It's probably a buffalo or a moose.
And did you know there were animals on ours? Jeez.
I didn't think you had nickels. I thought you had like all paper bills or something.
Oh boy.
Is it a buffalo bill?
No, I just want everyone listening.
A moose.
I want everyone listening just to soak this in.
A moose.
This is what I deal with. Tony lives like 20 minutes from Canada and has no clue. Like, only looks south, never looks north.
It's a goose.
The Canadian peso has many
Canadian
mooses on it. Oh my God, Tony, can you take us somewhere else? What else are you looking at here? So I got two more I want to share.
Me of this song that Graham listens to about a moose named. I always think it's named Bruce, but it's not Bruce. It's something else. And
this is the content that people get.
100% high quality.
Yes,
Tony, number 3.
So this is a new one we've just started tracking, and I'm pretty excited about. So we've been trying to figure out a measurement that basically tracks technicians' productivity, for lack of a better term, and it's just very complicated because they're doing many different things. So what we have broken it down into are service calls that need to be invoiced and project hours that we need to be spending every week. The service calls for our business seem to take care of themselves. We have a very consistent average. It is very reactionary, right? Customer calls, you go take care of them because you need to take care of them. So that's less of the focus. The big thing that we are starting to focus on more is time spent on projects per week. We have realized that is the piece of our organization that we struggle from being intentional about.
From an in-field angle? Or do you mean everyone?
Physically in-field. Okay. So how much time is our technicians spending on site working on projects? Not necessarily build or close, just literally how long are you on a customer site working on what we call as a project? Now, a project is anything that is quoted. Okay. So that is a metric we have started tracking. We are hoping to hit 200 project hours per week. We know if we hit that number, we will hit our billed labor targets.
That is pretty in depth. So are you tracking that against what you actually bill on the projects as well, or just how much time you're spending on it? No,
we do track over under on projects as a separate measurement. Okay. But so this is purely like a technician activity measurement, something they can know, like, hey, just be productive. It's not even productive. It's like, it's busy time. Like, make sure you are on, like, prioritizing your schedule to make sure that, you know, our schedulers and everything get enough time on the schedule to hit that measurement. So
time allocation.
Yeah. So what we realized is a lot of times on those projects, you're there multiple days, sometimes multiple weeks, or you're there 70% of the, you want 70% of the project done 1 week, and then the remaining 30% kind of flows over into a few other weeks. So you're like, okay, what is the billed labor that week? And it's like, well, the technician was on this project. We haven't been able to track that. So we're literally just looking at time spent on projects per week. We know to hit our billed labor targets, we need to spend X amount of time on average per week. If we're falling short, we need to be allocating more time to projects, or be looking at why we're not hitting that. But
cool. I like it. Lars?
That one's got me puzzled a bit, Tone, but I'm going to let that percolate for a bit.
What puzzles?
I don't know. I'm just not sure I'm clarified on it, but I'm going to think about it, and then I'll come back to you.
Clock in.
Is it a driver for the technicians or the schedulers?
The technicians. Both.
Okay.
Okay.
Like technicians have their own metrics. So like they know based on their average workflow balance of like service tickets to projects, like, hey, on average, I need to spend 10 hours a week on projects. They have a complementary metric of how many service tickets they need to do in a week. So,
it's
basically we've created a formula or a recipe for each technician to know what they need to do to hit their targets.
Right. It's an interesting segue because I think, it's probably something we could have started with. But we talk about all these KPIs and we talk about performance metrics and things that we're looking at. And, probably the most important thing is that it's all aligned with where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Because keeping track of, how many times somebody turns on the lights, it doesn't align with what we are trying to accomplish. It really doesn't matter. And if you start dialing in and focusing on those things, right, it doesn't have the impact.
Yeah, I think so. I think the biggest thing, like in conjunction with that, is that you figure out where you're wanting to go, and you may have some type of measurement that you think is going to get you there, and that measurement will typically open up other areas of the business that you would want to dig into. So you go, okay, in order for us to stay profitable, we need to maintain our energy bill to a certain point. And so how can we lower our energy bill? Well, let's track how long the lights are on. Would then be beneficial, but it's got to have a use case, and just tracking it just to track it is definitely not going to be beneficial.
Right. And that's, I'll use an example, and I do want to jump into this next one, but I'll use an example that I've talked about many times on this platform, this podcast, but we talk about daily drive time.
Yep.
Right. So what we did is we keep track of how long we spend driving every day. And the result, after really hammering on this, my expectation was if you're not driving, you're working. And therefore, if you drive less, you work more. Therefore, our hours should go up. And they didn't. What we did do, though, is we got better at the accuracy of how much time we were driving. Mm-hmm. Because before this big push, guy would go for lunch and he'd stay, traveling, or went to a distributor and, would stay traveling. Well, the people that were monitoring this were like, hey, well, that's not fair. So we'll just, turn their clock off while they're doing this. And so the stats got better, but what I was trying to get to didn't change.
Yeah.
So that was, Tony just reminded me of that, because it has to be aligned with what you really want. If we're focusing on the inputs and the lead measures, you have to, every once in a while, look at it and make sure, is it giving us the real result that we want? Is it giving us the lag measure? Because if not,
then don't do it.
I heard this on a podcast about a month ago.
Was it the Unlocked podcast?
No.
It's a great podcast.
The guy was talking about goals and how he likes to have, rather than have North Star goals, he likes to have OR goals. And I believe he was talking about OR as in like the oar in a canoe, or rowboat or whatever.
Like a paddle. Okay.
Yeah. Paddle goals, you could call them. And what he said by that is, if you have a North Star goal, a lot of times you can just go really hard towards that goal and focus extremely hard on that, right? So your example is a great one. I'm going to focus on lack of drive time or whatever, and I'm just going to do what I can to minimize drive time and not focus on the effects of that. So what he talked about is, in the analogy he uses, if you're sitting in a rowboat with one paddling one way, you're going to go in circles.
That's right.
But if you have an oar, you have one that goes on one side and one that goes on the other side. Or maybe, I don't know. Anyways, long story short, what the message was, having complementary goals. So like you have something that offsets the goal. So in this case, Chad, you asked the question, what else are you looking at? So we look at, right now, our main issue is making sure we produce the amount of production to get those project hours. We also look at how over under we are on projects, right? We don't want just people spending time on site, wasting time. So we want to look at the over under as a complementary goal to that number of time spent on projects. Yeah. I think a lot of your goals, you have kind of that balancing act, right? Like you don't want to just send a ton of quotes and get no approvals. Our goal for that is approval percentage. Something to keep in mind that a lot of times you want to have, like, if you're looking at focusing on increasing one thing, you want to kind of have two metrics that offset each other, because otherwise people can, for lack of a better term, gamify it or unintentionally gamify it.
Yeah.
I think that was a very good point that you just made there. I got blurry at the very beginning, getting distracted with the oar and the paddle, like swapping of words and trying to figure out what an oar was. But but I think it was a good point.
In Tony's defense, it doesn't take a lot to distract you.
What we're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a great point, Tone, because I say to my management team all the time, what's the most obvious thing that'll go wrong? This is the decision. This is what we're looking at. What's the most obvious thing you could screw up?
Or,
if you're tracking drive time, what's the most obvious thing that can go wrong? Well, you just improve the stats.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah.
Again, for us on that, we know the number of service tickets we need to do. That stays constant. We've seen the biggest variable to our build labor is time spent on projects. So that's why we're zoning in on that one.
Nice. Did you give us your third one, Lars? Or are we still talking about oars?
I'm about to.
Okay.
He said oar, and I thought about a seal. Like oar.
Yeah. I was thinking an or goal, like it's an either or goal.
Yeah.
And then I was very confused. There was a lot of things.
Gold, silver, those are all different oars, aren't they?
And then I was like, is this like a Minnesotan thing where you call it an oar? Is paddle? It was a lot of things happening.
Okay,
do you call it an oar boat? When you have a paddle boat, is that an
canoe.
oar boat? Oh,
it's canoe.
A canoe.
Rowboat. My God. So I know we're probably getting a little long in the tooth here, so I'm going to give you a couple rapid fire ones. That works. Okay. So one of them is a term that one of our operations managers way back when came up, and we called it in-field delays. If you want to start tracking something, you want to make your business more profitable and get an understanding of what's going on, this is a great metric for you. In-field delays are anything that happens outside of the building that has a negative impact on finishing a job. So you don't have the right hardware, in-field delay. I have to come back because this door wasn't ready, in-field delay. I have to get something delivered to me because I forgot it. In-field, I don't have the right tool. I don't have the right keys. I need more keys. I need this. I need that. Anything that has that impact, and you just keep track of it. How do we do it? Literally a piece of paper taped to the wall beside our warehouse door. Every time somebody shows up, click. Like our goal is, I don't want to see anyone on our field team because they should be in the field doing things.
That's fair. That's a fair statement.
So that's a rudimentary one. In-field delays, that's one. The second one, and this is another, I don't know why I saved these to the last, but another one that'll make a huge impact. The amount of outgoing calls by your collections team. Because it is really easy to ignore emails. Right? If you've ever emailed me, you will understand what I'm talking about there. But phone calls are a lot harder to ignore.
So fun one to tie onto that one. We used to track number of contact attempts. We weren't tracking calls, but what we realized is that sometimes not all accounts that were past due were getting contacted. So we now started tracking percent of contact attempts on accounts that are past due. So like if we have 100 accounts past due, you better have called at least 100% of them once a week. But making sure that every account is getting the attention and it's not just directed at a few.
Yeah, we can dive down that path. Like we looked at, receivables and amount of outstanding receivables, and what we found is then our collections team would focus on the big ones because that would make the biggest gross dollar impact. And the hard ones to collect are the small ones. So what we started looking at, just at a high level, look at how many outgoing collection calls go out. Because my goal was 50 a day. 2 people, 50 a day.
Yep.
And as soon as we started monitoring that, and then, we have a bunch of phone calls, but it's still not really working. Change it to amount of outgoing phone calls longer than 30 seconds. Because I don't care if you left a voicemail. I want you to talk to a person and get an answer and update. So that was one of them. And as soon as we made that change, we started seeing some impacts. This is the best we've done in collections in maybe my career. But I attribute a lot of that to making phone calls, not emails, phone calls. Emails, I don't even care about. has to be a phone call.
Another tip you gave us about a year and a half ago was not track the amount of dollars past due, but the number of accounts past due. We've started doing that, and that's been really helpful because, like you said, you can have one invoice that skews that. It's like, what are the number of accounts that are sitting there past due, and what are we doing to chip into that?
You have one major customer that has 30 invoices past due.
Yeah.
If they get that one, hey, well, their number just went way down, but they ignored the other 150, right? So, Chad?
Okay.
Lay it on us.
So we started tracking our parts funnel ratio. So the number of purchase orders that are
funnel ratio.
Yeah.
Parts and funnel ratio. Okay.
Yeah. So basically we're trying to track how frequently and consistently are we ordering parts that we will expect to come in over a period of time. So we measure the ordered and open. So anything that has not arrived yet against our closed. So a PO is closed when it arrives at our facility, and we're trying to keep that in balance. We struggled a few years ago where we would go in these ebb and flows of, we would order a ton of parts and then they would all come in at the same time. And then we didn't have enough manpower to get them installed. So then we would have a high amount of, invoices due to our vendors, but we couldn't actually complete the work in a timely manner. And so we were stretching that out. So we're trying to balance how, like, a daily cadence of ordering materials, and then it is estimated at arrival.
So a customer approves a job. Do you order the hardware right then? Or do you look at the schedule and say, we need this to install this in a month, let's order this in 2 weeks?
Yeah, so we used to immediately trigger. So it was approved, it goes to purchasing, and purchasing ordered it. Boom, it was here in a couple of days or a couple of weeks, obviously depending on lead time. Yeah. That was one of the things that caught us terribly with just a lot of parts on the floor. And so that is shifted to our project managers actually dictate the target date when they need the materials to arrive, and then our purchasing department manages ordering it, have it in time.
If you've pulled that off, that is absolutely brilliant. I'm going to have to talk to Eric, assuming he's the one that figured this out, and you're just reiterating this for him.
Well, Eric is a genius, but I assume you're probably talking about Sam or Zach.
Oh, not Eric?
No. Okay. The other one, this is one that we've actually, this is probably one of the more exciting KPIs that I watch on a weekly basis, and it is our quote meteorology report. So we track our forecast. That's what they called it in our system. Basically, the forecast. Every salesperson, once they go through the process of sending a quote, they will mark and through the follow-up process, they'll mark a likelihood of approval, low, medium, high. And then it projects it out over our average days for approval, which is like 45 days. Effectively, we're trying to predict within a 45-day period what approvals that we're actually going to have. And we've been predicting this since May of 2024, and we have been either below we have estimated low or right on the line almost every month since then. So as to say, we have forecasted correctly or under forecasted since May of 2024. And so it shows me like what my expected approvals will be for the month of September, even though like we're in the middle of September right now. I can see what we're projecting to have as approvals. And so we can start planning, and it's already started to creep into October. There's a very complicated formula in the background that does this based off of weighting the different measurables, but it is by far given me the most comfortable projection of what the sales approvals are going to be to know if we're on track to meet our goals for the year.
Very cool.
And that I did not come up with. I came up with the idea, but the nerds in our organization figured out the way to actually make that formula work significantly better than I did. Cool.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I'm going to have to jump into that more because I literally just picked up my phone and text Matt and was like, I think Chad just brought value to my life.
Oh, again.
And I said, I think it was
again.
Obviously, it's not Eric. It was Zach. I don't know. It was somebody. I know who it wasn't. That's the only thing I'm sure of. So
yeah. All right. Hopefully these KPIs are something that you can maybe spark your ideas, spark some idea inside of your organization, things you can measure. Maybe you go, hey, I'm not quite there yet. But again, I think Tony and Lars both stated multiple times, and we talked about this in the original KPI episode for episode 1, start with something. Get that notepad out, get that spreadsheet out, make it simple. Don't overthink the measurables on it, and don't, clear your mind of the limitations of what you can and can't track. A plain sheet of paper will help you get started on that, and it will definitely start to improve your business overall. So thank you very much for listening today. We will have a new episode for you next Thursday. Lars is getting ready to tell us what that topic is going to be, because he is in charge of the next episode. And we want to invite you to check out our website, unlockedpodcast.com, so that you can click on all of the blog posts and track your way through the ability to follow our podcast feeds and the video feeds on our YouTube channel. It's all available for you at unlockedpodcast.com. LJ, what's the deal for the next?
I am already preparing myself for Tony's saltiness, because he loves surprises. So I'm going to throw this out there. We're going to take a little different angle at this. We're going to do a bit of a workshop. We're going to do some business counseling, a little consulting. Who doesn't like a nice consultant? Next episode, we're going to dive into what are the biggest challenges you're having right now today in your business, and have the other two guys help you work through them. What are some options? Let's have a brainstorming session, because I'm guessing if we are having these challenges, there's probably a couple people that are having the same. And this would be we do this stuff all the time anyway, but we usually just don't do it in front of a camera.
Ooh.
So I thought this would be an opportunity.
The smile on Tony's face right now is just huge.
No, he hates it. He hates the topic, because I'm not giving him a topic title, and it's ambiguous.
There you go.
That's not a word, boys.
Ambiguous.
Yes, that's the word.
Well, either way, we're going to paddle through it. So thank you guys for,
we're going to oar through it, Chad.